So I thought it'd be a good way to do it would be to go on one of my hikes. As you can tell, I'm out of breath. I've been walking for a while now, trying to find the perfect spot to start filming. Couldn't find it, so I thought, you know what, just bloody do it. Just get out here and start filming. So at a place, I think it's called Receptors. I've been there for the last, probably 6 months now. It's a bit of a regular thing. Really enjoyed it as well. Places. Did Scarfell Pike a few weeks ago. Gonna do Mount Snowdon probably in 2 weeks now. Actually, it just depends on the thunderstorms. Do Ben-Nevis as well at some point, but booked in for the 3 Peaks challenge as well, which I'm really looking forward to actually. And then myself and a few other people from the industry I work in are organising another hike to try and raise money for charity, which is similar to 3 Peaks. May have some wild camping involved though as well. We're trying to give it a twist. One of the things that was mentioned was possibly fancy dress. I can't see that happening. I don't think that would look great, but there you go. So yeah, I've been waiting for years now to try and start putting some content out, and didn't know how to go about it, to be honest. Didn't know where to start, but I'm here and I'm looking to get things out weekly or every couple of weeks at least, so you can see my adventures and what I get up to, including the engineering that I do on the machine, and the archives as well. You get the chance to sit in with me, not actually sit in with you know what I mean, to be there with me whilst I do some recordings. I speak to wherever the voices are from. Obviously it's a mystery, and then yeah, we just go from there. But I'm really looking forward to it. It's not going to be anything fancy about this, most of it. I'm going to be knackered all the way through after this anyway. But the views are beautiful, and this is kind of what I do at the weekends now. I look around these places, look at these amazing views. This is my Saturday night, to be honest. So it is a little bit boring, but that's me nowadays. So happy days. So yeah, continuity check. I'm wearing sunglasses now. It is the same day, it's the same evening. It's just a bit bright, you know. Sunlight's just a little bit, even though it probably doesn't look it on the camera, it's still quite bright. So yeah, I guess the question is, how did New World Science begin? Well, wow. You think I'm putting this through before even filming, but there's just so much history to it. So let's go back to that's the way it went. We're having a chat, a discussion about the afterlife. A bit of a night out, listening to Stairway to Heaven by Led Zeppelin, of all people. And yeah, we talked about life after death and stuff. And I was actually a bit of a skeptic, to be honest. I sort of believed it. I was in 2 minds about it all. I wasn't sure because there's a lot of TV shows and stuff out there that dramatise things. Some are genuine, some try to be genuine. This particular night, we were talking, as I say, about life after death. And we made a deal that whoever passed away first, this wasn't a real deal, obviously this wasn't a commitment, it was just a joke. And we made a deal. Whoever passes away first, Christ, that sounds like a competition, just lets the other one know that there's something, you know, really thinking it was going to be anything was going to come of it, and so we did. So we sorry, I've completely lost train of thought. I'm trying to figure out where I am. No clue right now. Oh no, I do. Yeah. Anyway, and yeah, so. he was a young man, I think he was about 25, and it hit everybody around us, and some years passed by, and I bought a BlackBerry. I think BlackBerries used to be quite popular, the mobile phone. It was a BlackBerry 85, Christ, was in 8520 or something. Anyway, I got into this phase of meditating, and I wanted to capture nice pictures. I wanted to record actual little streams and waterfalls and stuff. So I record this stream, and when I play it back, there's loads of whispering on this stream. And at that point, I'm thinking it's just some sort of, I don't know, it's just like a crappy microphone or something. So I changed the phone 4 times. I think the carrier was T-Mobile at the time. And they were telling me there was nothing wrong with it. And in the end, I sent it over to a friend of mine who's an audio expert in Canada. And he did his thing, amplified it, cleaned it up. And then when we played it back, there was all these different voices on it. I remember looking around at the time and it was only me. There was no one else there. And I had hurt my ankle a little bit before. I think I went over it playing football or something, and on the recording you could hear somebody say, watch your ankle. A lady says to them, this man who's talking, who is that? The man says, that's my grandson. That's my grandson Eamon. So, I didn't tell anybody at first because I think it's that fear of ridicule, which sounds a bit daft when you go on national television like I did, and just do what, put machines out there, put recordings out there. But I had to be sure that there was something tangible, that it was real, that I could trust everything I could do to make sure, debunk it basically. So for 3 months I kept it to myself. I probably looked like I was having an affair at the time to my ex-girlfriend, but I kept it to myself, and I was getting all kinds of recordings coming through. And I remember getting my friend who passed away, who I made the bet with. It wasn't a monetary bet. I don't know how that would work with the spirit world. Maybe crypto these days, who knows? But yeah, and he came through on a recording, and he called me by my nickname at the time, which it used to, in all honesty, the nickname he chose pissed me off, if I'm really honest. So when the difference of emotions of when he came through and called me by this nickname, I kind of laughed, but at the same time I was shocked, Anyway, I took it to my best friend called Lee. I went up the road to him and I said to him, look, there's this crazy things going on at the minute. I'm getting these voices come through, and I could imagine what he was thinking when I was saying stuff like that. But he knew that I wasn't the kind of person that would come out with something just like that, because I was a bit sceptical, and I was a businessman. I wasn't really massively spiritual. I mean, just trying to get into it, and then so I see him, and then I don't know if he was sold on it, but I thought the best thing to do is just to show him in practice, and we'll do a recording together. And so we did, and we got the laptop, because we could do with a laptop what we could do with a BlackBerry phone at the time. It just seemed to work across different things. And so we got the laptop, and we then recorded, and I was in my car, this car park in Bolton. Probably looked a bit suspect, to be honest. I was wondering what on earth we were doing there. And we do this recording, and we get a voice over saying hello, Receptors, which I think my friend was obviously shocked, but it was a really interesting choice of words, because obviously receptive, like a receiver. So we're a receiver to that transmission. And then it went from there. And then for a good 5 years before coming out into the public with it, really, we used to do so many private sessions. And I know a lot of people saw Infinity, the original machine, which I kind of miss it. I used to use it on Most Haunted, but I had to take it apart for the sake of safety. It was a death trap, and that's no pun intended either. It was so dangerous. The amount of times I go into a building and I had to just double check it doesn't, catch fire. So I didn't want to cause any issues for the production team of the problem. So yeah, I had to dismantle it, decommission it, and build a couple of other variations that, to be honest, I was never really sold on some of the variations that I built. They were kind of like in-between machines. They had a bit of everything, but none of them were standouts until Pegasus. And I think Pegasus, I mean, you'll get to see it over the next few episodes that I do, but Pegasus is such a special creation, and something I'll openly admit has been so challenging and so difficult to build. But the people around me know I am a pretty ambitious person, and if I've got a challenge, I'll take on that challenge and I'll see it through. Pegasus has been a challenge for years now, because I know what I want it to do. I know what it's possibly capable of, I think I do. But there's no other benchmark to follow with this kind of work. There's nothing else out there like it. Granted, I'm sure there's some fantastic devices, some fantastic machines. I don't know enough about them. I'll be honest, I'm only really focused on what I do. Just because of the time, more than anything, because I barely have time to focus on what I do. So yeah, you'll get to see a lot more of that as I do these hikes as well. And these hikes, I mean, I usually do them alone, or I'll pop up with team members of New World Science. There's a few people now affiliated with New World Science. Generally a couple of best friends, if I'm honest, and a couple of panel members who give me advice on things like legal, engineering, basically for like for the metal stuff, for the metal work. If you've seen my machines, you'll notice I'm absolutely sodding crap at metal work. I've even got scars on my hands. I don't think you can actually see them, but from my own kind of machine work, it's terrible. It really is. But my engineering is good. Theoretically, I'm a fantastic engineer. In practice, I'm learning. I'm learning. Just don't ask me for a pack test in an event. I'm only joking. Well, don't. But yeah, so I do these walks, these hikes. I think they're great for the mind, for the body, for the soul, if the mind and the soul are separate, I guess. And I always feel that when you get to the top of one of these hikes that you have time to think, A hike for me represents climbing up a challenge, climbing up a mountain, which is what it is. But achieving something, getting to the top of something, even when you're tired, just keep going, because it's the same thing with life. So many instances where it's easy to just give up. No, never give up. Talk to people, keep going, and keep learning. Life isn't about failing, life is about learning. You either win or you learn. And I don't see it as wins anymore. I think it's progression or understanding. There's different ways of looking at life. That's how I look at it. I'm sweating after that. I ended up jogging up a little bit. Wow. Here I am, back in the workshop. I've been working on Pegasus this evening. Going to show you some examples of what it sounds like. You can also see Marcello Bacci's radio over there. But yeah, have a listen to this. I'm going to turn it up and see what you think. Can you hear me? So we need to play around with the function generator a little bit. Actually affects the speech. Oh, that's a bit loud. Okay. Pop this speaker here. And hopefully you can hear a little bit more about what's going on. Can you hear me? Takes a little bit of time sometimes to tune in. Can be frustrating because it does take time, but when you get it into the sweet spot, it sounds so good. Can you hear me? It's not quite working. Let me just have a play around with it and I'll cut back in. Okay, I've had a bit of a retune. Let's see what we've got. Can you hear me? you hear me? Sometimes we don't get the desired results that we're looking for. There's something going on, but it's not very clear. Can you hear me? Okay.
Stimmen. Die 4 vorgeführten Beispiele gehören meist zur A-Gruppe. Bitte beachten Sie die Vorbedingungen für richtiges Abhören und die Kommentare.
Help the air adapt itself to the strange rhythm, rapidity and softness of the voice entity's speech. Each utterance is repeated several times.
So I remember listening to Breakthrough by Raudiver. I think it was amazing. Like, it was such a... I mean, it was pioneering at the time. I mean, anything we do with EVP or anything to do with that kind of communication is obviously pioneering, but I think back then it was just so new. And Raudiver came out with this record. It was an LP that came out in some magazines. And when I was, even before I'd had the recording with my friend, when he came through, I did have a little bit of an interest, and I was listening to these LPs, the CD versions of them, along with Friedrich Jürgensen as well, and listening to his work and just hearing it now, it brings back memories, you know, and I'd love to know how they felt back then when they were receiving them voices and they didn't have anybody to go to tell. They were kind of, you know, again, it's new territory. How do you convince the world of something that you can hear and you can demonstrate it on a piece of media, but how do you prove it? You know, how do you prove it?
Latvian, you are burning people.
This is Raudiver's recordings
The
now.
experimenter addresses his former collaborator, the Swiss parapsychologist Professor Gebhard Frey. Beset by doubts, the experimenter begs Professor Frey to give his name, and a voice answers, Frey.
I mean, I guess if he knows him.
Then, in Swedish and German, Du sowas willst nicht glaube. You are sleeping. You do not want to believe.
Wow, I remember that being on, I could be wrong, but that quote was on a Morrissey album. You are sleeping, you do not want to believe. I think it's on the end of one of his songs, or it's at the end of an album, one of the songs at the end of the album. It's right at the end, which I thought was interesting for an artist like that to be sampling something like this. But it is, I think when I listen to some of the old EVPs that you hear, and they feel quite dreamy, I think it's the best way to describe it. Some of the things that are said, some of the, you know, things like you are sleeping, you do not want to believe, all those kinds of things just sound quite dreamy to me. Like, I don't know if they're philosophical, I don't know. It's interesting though.
German, land of the soul. Radio frequency voices. Professor Lorenz, who was a close friend of the experimenter, promised that he would manifest, if possible, after death. We hear a voice say, Lorenz, Pienax Klat.
When I listen to the differences of Jürgensen and Raudiver in their recording styles, in how they compile data, evidence and everything, it's quite interesting because I always felt that Raudiver was the scientist. You know, he was the guy who was looking to develop technology, looking to take it further, trying to understand how this work could be, like how it works. Whereas Friedrich Jürgensen, I feel, was the spiritual guy. I think with Friedrich, he was an opera singer, a producer, a painter. So I always felt with Jürgensen, it was more, not so much spiritual, but it was more from a place where he wanted to understand what the message was. Whereas Raudive was more about how and why this would happen. And I think the way I was inspired was to try and find a balance of the two. To try and find a place where both of them do inspire me. You know, I'm always trying to engineer things, but then I get onto the stage. So I go through a little phase. I'll engineer something for a while, like Pegasus now, and I'm only focused on the engineering. That's all I think about. And then there comes a time where you'll get a recording and you delve into it and you want to understand what the message actually is. Now, there's been so many times in the past where I've nearly quit the project. You know, I've nearly quit it. I even remember having a recording from, I think it was 2010, where I'd said on a laptop recording that I didn't know what this was. I haven't got a clue what these voices are that are coming through, but what I can say is I will never record again. And the response I got to that was a laughing, like just something that was laughing in the background. They obviously saw something that I didn't back then. And it was probably about 4 or 5 months later, I was on the phone to a friend of mine, to Lee, the person I played the first recording to, and we had this, and I'll play it soon on one of the vlogs, we had this recording that came through on the phone. So I was on a wireless, like a handset in the house, a house phone, and Lee was at a train station, so there was a lot of electricity around there, and he was trying to talk to me. We were trying to talk anyway, and there was an interference on the line asking us to hold contact. Needless to say, not long after, Lee came back to mine and we started to record again. And I look back and I think there was actually instances where Friedrich Jürgensen had the same thing happen, where he got these voices on a reel-to-reel machine, I think it was a newer reel-to-reel machine, and he didn't understand what it was, and he got to the point where he just packed it and he slid it under the bed and ignored it. And then he got different interferences that came through, which asked him again to hold contact, to not give up on this contact. And it's funny because every investigator that I look into always has this same thing where they say, you know, and me included, where we talk about how it on one hand you're trying to balance the voices and then, you know, help them, like get a message through. On the other hand, how do you tell people, like how does that, you know, how do you translate it to the public? It's insane, isn't it? When you think about it, when you say it out loud, it's insane. But there's something there. There's just something there. And it'll be interesting to see how far we can take this project and to what stages we can develop it and what we can learn as we go along, because maybe this project might inspire another project down the line, and they do incredibly well because I guess the foundations of this really help them. So who knows? You may remember when I was talking about my friend earlier, when I was on the phone to him, and an interruption came through whilst we were on the phone, just asking us to hold contact. Well, I found that recording. I'm going to play it, see what you think.
Is there anybody that wants to come through and say anything? I can hear you a little bit. I can hear you on this side. Can you try and repeat it so Lee can catch this on the recording? Try again. Could you tell me a bit more about that? Keep trying. Well, it's coming through now. I can actually hear you.
I have no idea what that last bit says. I'm going to repeat that to see if any of you lot can understand what it says, but here we go. So, yeah, when that happened, we quickly jumped back onto recordings. I just remember the shock. The phone call came through, and I'm holding the phone in my hand. I put it on loudspeaker, and I've got my phone, my mobile phone, to record that as quick as I could, because when I heard it, I thought, well, I don't know what I was thinking. It was insane. Being inside my body, I felt it best to something. Let's see. That sounds to me like being inside my body, I felt it best not to talk, which is... Okay, so this next recording is really interesting because this was our first conference that we did. So it was really important, and this conference took place in Germany at a place called the VTF, which was an old ground of Friedrich Jürgensen. So it was a place that he used to present. It's been going for years. I think it's been going since the 60s, I'm guessing now. Could be a bit later. But they had some really, really interesting visitors go there. Like I say, Friedrich Jürgensen and other investigators who've impacted the field. I remember the night before, it was 2 days before actually, that we were getting ready to go to the conference, and we were setting the machine up and everything, and it wasn't great. It just wasn't working very well at all. And we got this recording through from John, and I asked him to describe where he is, and John comes through and he says he's in a dark cottage type place, something like that, full of opportunistic vigour. So what was interesting about the opportunistic vigour is I believe it means energy that you can take advantage of or create very fast, like opportunistic and vigour. So he's describing his place where he is, and that's how he describes it. So if I just play it, and you might notice as well that as John is speaking, there's a repeat. It goes dark cottage, like that. And I think that's something to do with some kind of modulation loop or something. It used to happen a lot on the older recordings where we get the echo, like we get this. It was almost like they were recycling the voices that they create, or recycling the speech, and then putting new speech on it. So almost like repeating the speech that they've got and then trying to edit it. Let's just see what it says. Can you hear me? How are you doing? Can you describe where you are? Now I'm just going to stop it there accidentally because I've just opened a text document that was created for this. So it took us some time. It took us a good few weeks to figure out what was actually said. And we got... So I say, can you hear me? Yes, I can. How are you doing? Very good. Can you describe where you are? I'm communicating from a dark cottage type place like mystical, full of opportunistic vigour. We can do, and I don't know what this bit was in between, we can do something of the box, we can do testing of the project, in particular short tests. Put German in the box, put German in the box. That German is a complex, complicated character. I think that's called at the conference, although I think that's extra. Put German into the box, put German into the box, put German in the box. That's German vocabulary. Right, so when we were breaking this down and we kept hearing put German in the box, obviously trying to figure out what they were talking about, but it hints to us that they have some kind of speech processor or something to make it possible to communicate. So when they say put German in the box, it was very important because when we went to the event, and I believe these recordings are on Wikipedia somewhere, or yeah, I can't remember where they are exactly, but the audience at the German conference then decided to ask questions, and they were getting responses in German. And they were getting responses in German from my friend who didn't speak any German before, but he was using this kind of box as a translator to speak. So we figured that this put German in the box referred to some kind of like speech pack or something like that. I'll play it so you can hear it, but it's bizarre. Can you hear me? How are you doing? Can you describe where you are? And what you'll find, what's really, again, another interesting aspect is there's like a click at the end of that, like somebody's turned or dropped a microphone or something like that. I'm not saying a mic drop like what a rapper or something would do. What I'm saying is it sounds like they've ended it, or they've ended some kind of transmission and they've shut it down, and you get this, it does sound like a microphone or a phone being put back or something like that, which hints at something possibly physical. I used to get a lot of recordings like this as well, where somebody would say announcement. It's quite amazing when you look through it and you hear it. Good night, Amen.
Good night.
I say good night, Amen, and there's something Amen, and then what sounds to me like night night, Amen.
Good night.
Incredible. And I think what was really cool, like through all of this project, is you start to develop relationships. So after we've had like a long day of asking questions and and them working on their side, whatever they're doing, and us doing our thing, you get into the niceties of the conversation. You thank each other for each other's time, and there's a weird boundary that gets crossed where you think, okay, whoever it is we're speaking to, they're also like thanking us for our time as well, and it's almost like two teams on two sides of the veil who are acknowledging each other, and they're thanking each other for each other's time, and there's a mutual respect of some kind. I mean, I could be completely wrong, but... Thank you.
Lena.
Now, on this recording, I cut this short, sadly, because you can hear I say Lena, and then you'll hear, this is Lena, like that. I'll play it for you.
Lena. Lena.
It's such a shame. I love this. So this is one of the... I love this. This is one of the earlier recordings on the Infinity, and this shows you how robotic it got. So we went from a phase of creating... We got the contact done. We got that done first. Then what I guess the next challenge was to try and add some kind of vocal tones to it so it was less robotic. But when I say it used to be robotic, this is a fantastic example of how robotic. So this is hello, can you hear me? It's very robotic, very kind of sounds a bit like a Dalek. No offense to them. And honestly, when I say there are multiple examples of recordings like this. I mean, an insane amount. This was quite a poetic kind of recording. So I was asking if Vincent was around, and I got a really unusual response saying, This was quite a poetic recording. So I'm asking for Vincent, and I get a response, this really odd response saying, as the sun comes down, he's playing, he will record you in the morning.
As the sun falls and flames that even an ordinary morning. As the sun falls and flames that even an ordinary morning. As the sun falls and flames that even an ordinary morning.
It's the last. It's the start that makes me laugh. Or it's what?
We play music then. We play music.
And let me see if I can play the actual music.
We play music.
No, it's not that one. Here we go. That's quite amazing, isn't it? We thought it sounded like Tchaikovsky at the end. We could be wrong, to be honest. But what we know is it's something that's musical that's come through there. And it reminds me of kind of an old gramophone. I don't know. Yeah, so make of that what you will. Moving on to a different one, going on to, if you remember, I mentioned before about when we were getting help from Lena on the early machines, and we tune around and we change the modulation and different things like that, trying to figure out how this would work. And we get people come through and help us, and one of them was different channel. Then you hear me change the beat, it's called beat frequency oscillation. You hear me change that. I'm trying to I can't remember what I was trying to do with the signal, but I was trying to either speed it up or slow it down. It was something to do with the pitch. There's always been a pitch problem, which kind of, I think that points to an issue with timings on their side and our side. So let's play that for you. Different channel, then you hear me woo away, and then you hear Eamon, that's better. So thank you for watching this. It's been nice going through all the archives and everything. There's so much more to show you. I can't wait to really dig deep back in the archives and actually to show you the latest stuff that's going to be coming out as well. I think that's going to be really cool. But yeah, if you enjoyed the video, like and subscribe. There's going to be more to come out. And yeah, I'm also going to be climbing more mountains, so hopefully this will be a weekly thing. Worst case scenario, I'd say every 2 weeks, but we'll see. But yeah, have a great day, have a great week, and thank you very much. Bye.